The markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Asian shares are mixed as the conflict between Israel and Iran escalates, weighing on Wall Street. Japan's Nikkei 225 and South Korea's Kospi are in the green, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng, China's Shanghai Composite, Singapore's Straits Times, and Australia's ASX 200 are in the red. In the currency markets, the US dollar weakens against the Japanese yen, Singapore dollar, South Korean won, and Thai baht. The Australian dollar strengthens against the greenback, while the US dollar holds steady against the Hong Kong dollar. Gold edges higher by 0.23%. Oil markets are mixed. West Texas Intermediate crude is flat with a slight uptick, while Brent crude dips. Dubai crude jumps more than 2%. In the crypto space, Bitcoin gains 0.72%, while Ethereum climbs 0.99%. Iran will show Israel no mercy. That's the stern warning from Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei as the air war between the two longtime enemies enters its sixth day. This comes despite a call from U.S. President Donald Trump for Iran's unconditional surrender. On his post on X, Khamenei says Iran will give a strong response to what he calls the terrorist Zionist regime. Trump, meanwhile, warns on social media that U.S. patience is wearing thin, even though he says he has no intention to kill Iran's leader for now. His comments suggest a more aggressive stance towards Iran as he weighs whether to deepen U.S. involvement. Israel also signaling it will not let up in its war against Iran. On Bilyonaryo News Channel's agenda, Israeli Ambassador Fluss says the conflict will only end once Iran's nuclear capabilities are neutralized. The war began last Friday when Israel launched a surprise assault on Iran's atomic facilities and military commanders.
What will take is to finish the job, meaning to remove the threat on the existence of Israel, which means to destroy the military nuclear capability and a military ballistic missile capability of Iran. And then when there's no threat to the Israeli existence, of course, from the point of view of Israel, of course, we can end it. But this is something that will take some time. It's not 1 or 2 days.
Ambassador Fluss also says the Israeli government will not restrict Filipinos or other foreign nationals from leaving the country. But he admits evacuation remains a challenge due to the suspension of air transport.
Well, Israel is a democracy. If people would like to leave, we are not holding people by force, absolutely not. I have to say that this time it is difficult to leave Israel because the Israeli air is closed, so there's no aviation, no flights in and out because of the danger, because of the missile attacks. So it's difficult to get in and out of Israel. Slowly, people are able to move, but through neighboring countries, either Egypt or Jordan. So it is very, very limited and difficult, but it's important to say we're a free country and it's a democracy. And if people prefer to leave, they can, of course, leave whenever they like. But currently now, they have to find a way to do it.
The United States is deploying more fighter jets to the Middle East. It is also extending the deployment of other warplanes. U.S. officials say the deployments are defensive in nature, as the jets will be used to shoot down drones and projectiles. The U.S. already has a strong military presence in the Middle East with nearly 40,000 troops in the region. These include air defense systems and warships that can detect and shoot down enemy missiles. With global oil prices under pressure amid the war between Israel and Iran, Philippine energy officials are checking fuel reserves and preparing subsidies for sectors most at risk. Paula Barcelon reports.
Energy officer in charge Sharon Garin inspected oil depots in the nation's capital Tuesday. This amid ongoing tensions in the Middle East, such as the conflict between Iran and Israel. The DOE says the country has enough stocks of crude oil and diesel for now, as fuel companies should have at least 15 days reserve fuel in case oil exporting countries stop exporting oil to the country.
Tumatama sila ng 28 days for gasoline as of June 15 to, no? And 26 days ang supply natin nationwide for diesel.
Petron Corporation's Manila Harbor Center terminal currently has a 27 million liter capacity, and it gets a supply of 7 million liters of petroleum products per day. Aside from supplies, the DOE says they are also closely monitoring prices.
And the price, kung meron nga mga problema sa price na mangyari, we are coordinating with all the other agencies concerned. So we will monitor, continuously monitor, and make sure na etong mga companies na to, na oil companies most especially, are ensuring na meron po tayong sufficient supply, tsaka yung presyo.
Should oil reach $80 per barrel, Garin says the DOE, the Agriculture and Transportation Departments are now readying funds to subsidize some of the fuel costs for public transport drivers and fisherfolk.
So in preparation for that, we will discuss kung ano yung natitirang funding dyan, anong pwedeng programa na pwedeng gawin, kasi marami namang pwedeng gawin na programs under this funding.
The DOE says they will meet with oil companies in the next few weeks to discuss additional measures to cushion the impact of rising oil prices on PUV drivers. Paulo Barcelon, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announces a new package of sanctions against Russia as the G7 summit wrapped up on Tuesday. The new sanctions target dozens of individuals and legal entities, as well as sea vessels that are part of Russia's shadow fleet. Carney also announced new aid for war-torn Ukraine.
With our international partners, we're launching a major new package of sanctions on individuals, on companies, on vessels, the shadow fleet, to exert maximum pressure on Russia. We're also sending over $2 billion in funding for drones, ammunition, armored vehicles to help Ukrainians defend their territory, as well as a $2.3 billion loan to help rebuild the infrastructure in that country. And take a moment to reiterate our condolences given the barbarism witnessed overnight in Kyiv caused by Russia.
U.S. retail sales fell by 0.09% in May compared with the previous month. This is according to data released Tuesday by the Census Bureau. The decline reflects increasing concerns that the Trump administration's sweeping tariffs might slow down consumer activity. One major factor in the decline was a drop in auto sales, as many consumers made large purchases earlier in the year in anticipation of Trump's tariff announcements. Data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics showed that U.S. import prices remained flat in May, while export prices declined by 0.9% month-on-month. Some flights to Bali are canceled as a volcano in eastern Indonesia erupts for the second time in 2 days. Mount Lewatobi Laki-Laki spewed ash as high as 11 kilometers, prompting at least 24 flight cancellations, affecting thousands of travelers. Residents from 2 villages were forced to evacuate. These areas have been covered in thick ash. No injuries or property damage have been reported. We're taking a short break. You're watching Business Brief. The Trade Department establishes the Supply Chain and Logistics Center, which aims to untangle long-standing bottlenecks in the country's logistics network. Sujin Kim is on the line to tell us more about it. Go ahead, Sujin.
The Department of Trade and Industry has kicked off the establishment of the Supply Chain and Logistics Center, a strategic initiative aimed at lowering logistics costs and boosting the competitiveness of micro, small, and medium enterprises across the country. With the Philippines comprising over 7,000 islands, the DTI emphasized the crucial role of a cohesive supply chain to ensure the efficient delivery of food and essential goods, especially in times of calamity.
Sobrang importante ang supply chain and logistics, especially that we are 7,600 islands. It's very difficult for us if we don't work together aggressively and very strongly on making sure that we get especially the food and other non-food items from point A to point B, especially when there are calamities.
The center is designed to address the long-standing challenges of high transportation costs and fragmented logistics that have hindered small businesses from reaching wider markets. The launch marked the formal pledge of support from key logistics players, including Maersk, Philippine Airlines Cargo, DHL, LBC Express, Fast Logistics, Grab, and other leading land, sea, and air transport providers. These companies have committed to working alongside government to streamline processes, provide technical support, and strengthen the country's logistics ecosystem.
We are rapidly expanding our business in Southeast Asia, and Philippines is a key market. But as we all know, with the geographical challenges that we face in the country, as well as the volatile global trade, we understand that supply chain can be complex. In partnership with DTI, we aim to simplify global trade, support local growth, and help Filipino brands go global, so business can focus on what they do best: growing and thriving.
With this partnership, we believe we can support more on a bigger scale. Therefore, we're fully committed to support you. And this event is also timely as we had our rebrand a couple of days ago.
PMTLI is well positioned to support government initiatives aimed at enhancing trade facilitation, reducing logistics costs, and modernizing countries' transport infrastructure. Together, we can build a more agile, efficient, and globally competitive Philippine logistics ecosystem.
As part of the initial phase, the DTI activated a hotline and online portal where MSMEs can access real-time support for freight inquiries, service referrals, and regulatory guidance. The center is set to expand further with plans to establish a physical hub, training ground, and matching platform before the year ends. Industry leaders underscored the importance of collaboration to simplify global trade, support local business growth, and help Filipino brands expand internationally. Maersk, for instance, highlighted the Philippines as a key market in Southeast Asia, while Philippine Airlines Cargo and transport groups reaffirmed their commitment to enhancing trade facilitation and modernizing transport infrastructure. The SCLC is part of the government's wider effort to build a more agile, efficient, and globally competitive logistics sector, a vital foundation to ensure that no Filipino entrepreneur is left behind in the nation's economic growth. And those are latest updates from Makati City. Back to you, Mai.
Thank you for that report, Susan Kim. The Department of Transportation is drafting plans for a new bus corridor similar to the EDSA bus carousel. Secretary Vince Dizon says the concept is now under review for the 8-kilometer España-Quezon Avenue route. He adds a feasibility study by his agency is expected to be completed next year. Dizon also says 3 Metro Manila subway stations may be operational before President Marcos leaves office in 2028. President Bongbong Marcos plans to make the 20 peso per kilo rice program fully funded by the national government starting next year. The president says the project is expected to scale up even as contributions from local government units are phased out. He adds rising local production and falling costs make the program sustainable without subsidies. 123 sites in various parts of the country are already selling the cheaper rice. The NCR Wage Board concludes public consultations on 2 petitions for an increase in minimum wage in Metro Manila. The Metro East Labor Federation seeks to raise the daily minimum wage from 645 pesos to 1,500 pesos. That's an increase of 885 pesos. Another workers' group is asking for a 555 peso wage hike. Workers expressed disappointment over lawmakers' failed promises for a legislated wage hike. Business groups, meanwhile, are hoping the board will reach a fair and acceptable wage increase for both sides. The Court of Appeals orders the Department of Agrarian Reform and the state-run Land Bank of the Philippines to pay nearly 30 billion pesos as just compensation to Hacienda Luisita Incorporated. In a 35-page ruling, the CA says that the RTC Special Agrarian Court miscalculated Hacienda Luisita's compensation, which is neither fair nor based on Section 17 of the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law. The appellate court has thus granted the petition for review filed by the Cojuangco family-owned estate. The CA said the 28 billion peso amount was determined using a prescribed formula that provides a more equitable and fair computation of just compensation as it factors in various considerations affecting property value at the time of taking. It also takes into consideration the money which could have accrued to the aggrieved landowner's benefit. Trade Secretary Cristina Roque asserts the partial closure of the San Juanico Bridge is not a valid reason to raise prices of commodities in eastern Visayas. She urges freight carriers to consider the struggles of consumers, adding that logistics firms already have the transportation and equipment needed to move goods. President Marcos has declared a state of calamity in eastern Visayas for about a year to mitigate the impact of the bridge repair on residents of Samar and Leyte. We'll have an update on the ICE protests in the U.S. when we return. You're watching Business Brief.
Good evening, I'm Pinky Webb.
The questions.
What did you uncover?
Nakita natin yung sa IPO, there was a violation of Section 8 of Republic Act 9511.
The issues.
Is there a problem with that, the present setup of the syntax?
The reason there's a 5% increase is because of inflation.
We clarify matters.
All these government agencies, we're actually the lowest. That's why it has to be, I hope that it will be addressed.
Pinky Webb is always on point.
Tinanggal na ng European Commission ang Pilipinas sa listahan ng mga bansang tinuturing na high risk sa money laundering at financial crimes. Sa huling desisyon na nilabas nito sa Brussels, sinabi ng executive body ng EU na kabilang ang Pilipinas sa nakapagpakita ng makabuluhang reforma laban sa dirty money at terrorism financing. Ang hakbang na ito na isang formal na pagkilala mula sa Europe ay inaasahang magdudulot ng direktang benepisyo sa ekonomiya, partikular sa banking sector.
Hello everyone! Let's begin your morning with these people that gives you the hottest information.
I'm Paulo de Rosario. Let's get you up to speed with some news that you could use right now.
I'm Ann Assis Carillo. Let's get today rolling with good vibes, laughter, inspiration, and the best company.
I'm Monique Tuzon, because anytime's a good time because it's always more fun with us.
With excitement, positivity, and fun to start your day.
Only here on
It's a Beautiful Day!
Get to the latest stories.
The Philippines bags a historic bronze at the 2025 Asia-Pacific Women's Lacrosse Championship.
The updates.
Table tennis power duo siblings brought home medals from the WTT Youth Contender.
The scores and what to celebrate in the world of sports.
I'm Anton Rojas.
And I'm Erica Christensen.
On the scorecard.
Where sports is our business.
And business is our sport.
Only here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.
For the first time, streaming services claimed the largest share of U.S. viewership at 44.8% in May. This surpassed the combined share of broadcast TV at 20% and cable at 24%. YouTube leads all platforms with a 12.5% slice. Ad-supported free services like Pluto, Roku, and Tubi captured 5.7%. This signals a major shift in consumer habits and advertising dollars. Mayor Karen Bass lifts the curfew for downtown Los Angeles a week after demonstrations against President Trump's immigration crackdown. Bass explains that the curfew, coupled with crime prevention efforts, are largely successful in protecting business establishments and residential communities.
I wanted to let the city know that I have declared a local emergency and issued a curfew for downtown Los Angeles to stop the vandalism, to stop the looting.
Meanwhile, in Los Angeles County, dozens of people took to the streets of Pico Rivera, still to condemn ICE raids in California. Philippine shares returned to negative territory ahead of the Bangko Central's policy meeting. The PSE index ended lower by 0.5% to close at 63.37, finishing the day as the third worst performer in Asia. Among the sectoral indices, only industrial ended in the green, with financials falling the most at nearly 2%. Advancers narrowly outpaced decliners 96 to 95. Total value turnover reached 5.3 billion pesos. Majority of the day's most active stocks ended in the red, with DigiPlus falling the most at more than 5%. Meanwhile, at the foreign exchange market, the peso is currently trading at 56.78 against the greenback, weakening from the previous close of 56.70. That's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Join us again tomorrow as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business, only here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel. See you then.